Welcome. This is Coach Dorf again. We're now going to look at a problem from section 1.3. This will be an example that's similar to a homework problem. In this one, we're supposed to sketch the graph of a function. And we're not going to do this by plotting points, but we're going to use functions that we already know and then transform them. Now, the first step on this type of problem is to make sure you know all the graphs of the functions that I list in page 2 of my notes. All right, those include such things as the function y equals x squared. The graph of that looks like this. The function y equals the absolute value of x. All right, there's a list of those in the notes. Make sure you know them. For this particular problem, we're going to use the one that is y equals the square root of x. And that looks something like this. All right, we're going to take that one and modify it so that it then looks like the function that's listed in this problem, which is the negative square root of x plus 1 plus 2. All right, so we start off with the original one, y equals square root of x. And I'm going to look at what happens from the inside as I go out to get the function that we want. And again, the function we want is this y equals negative square root of x plus 1 plus 2. Well, what's the closest thing to the inside? That means the closest thing to the x. Well, it's a plus 1. So what happens when I look at the function y equals the square root of x plus 1? That's the first step. How is that the original graph of y equals the square root of x? How is that modified when I turn it into y equals the square root of x plus 1? Well, when you put a number next to the x there, it moves the graph either left or right. In this case, if you add plus 1, it moves it to the left 1. If I were to subtract 1, if I would have put x minus 1, it would move it to the right 1. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go like this. That's what my new graph looks like. The next thing that's closest to the x that changes here is putting the negative on the square root. And how does that affect it? Well, I start with my function that I had before, the square root of x plus 1. When I put a negative in front of everything, that flips it across the x-axis. So now this one's going to look like this. And then finally, to get my last function that will look like what I want, I have to add 2. And how does adding 2 affect the last equation or graph that I had? Well, when I put a plus 2 at the very end, that means I move it up 2. If it were minus 2 at the end, I'd move it down 2. So here I'm going to move it up 2, and the graph is going to look like this. And so this is my final answer for this problem here. Now, let's look at some variations on this. Suppose we had y equals the square root of x minus 1 plus 2. So this is different because what's under the square root is a minus 1. How is that going to affect it? Again, I start with my original function. So y equals square root of x. I start with at x and I move out. So what's closest to the x is the minus 1. Now that I have a minus 1, it's next to the x, so I move it left to the right. In this case, the minus 1 moves it to the right, and it's going to look like this. And then finally, I have the plus 2. So I take this last graph that I did, and I move it up 2, and it's going to look like this. And so that's y equals square root of x minus 1 with a plus 2 at the end. All right. What about if we had, suppose y equals square root of x plus 1 minus 2. All right. So again, I start with my original y equals square root of x. Now, what's closest to the x? It's a plus 1. Because it's a plus 1, that means I'm going to move it to the left 1 space. So there, again, is my y equals square root of x plus 1. Now I do a minus 2. How does that change it? Well, it takes what I had and it moves it down 2. And so now it looks like this. Y equals square root of x plus 1 minus 2 there. All right, one last one I want to do. Suppose you had y equals negative square root of x plus 1 minus 2. So again, I start off with my y equals square root of x. Then I do my y equals square root of x plus 1. And so that looks like this. Then I do the negative, y equals negative x plus 1, and that flips it. All right, and now I do a minus 2, and so I'm going to take this one and go down here, and it's going to look like this. So this is y equals negative x plus 1 minus 2. Now, reason I want to look at this problem is notice that the original problem, y equals negative x plus 1 minus 2, is the same thing as a negative of the square root of x plus 1 plus 2. So there's another way I could look at this. So another way to look at this problem is to, again, work inside out. So here's my y equals square root of x. Then here is my y equals square root of x plus 1. All right, so that means I'm going over here. Now, because I have the parentheses, my 2 is what the plus 2 is what I should do next, and not the negative sign. So when I add plus 2 to what I have here, it's going to look like this. And so that is the y equals square root of x plus 1 plus 2. And then finally, I'm now going to take this and I'm going to look at y equals the negative of parentheses x plus 1 plus 2. And that negative outside the parentheses means now I flip what I had before across the x-axis. So I had this shape in red, but now I flip it across and it looks like this. All right, and that's going to be my answer. And notice that that matches what we got in the previous one. So what's really important here is the order of how you do these things. You have to work from the inside and go out. All right, hope that helps.